Good evening there, Peter. How's it going this evening?
Hey, Mr. Hinton, I'm doing good, man. Just been busy, highways and byways.
Mr. Williams, you've been all over the place, man. That's all I can definitely tell you there.
I have
Uh,
enough gas receipts to prove it too. Yes,
well,
sir.
last week we were supposed to follow up, but we had that bad weather and that kind of good stuff. So we're here to
Yes, sir.
follow up with a couple of questions that you learned. And first of all, I want to say good evening to you, Peter, and thank you for joining us on this follow up from our neighborhood meeting from last week. We appreciate you taking the time. I do realize you're extremely busy moving around Congressional District 6. But I want to give you a quick minute to go ahead and tell us who you are real quickly. I know I'll
Okay.
start getting to know you, but just go ahead and quickly tell us who you are, man, and then we're going to dive right on into it.
All right. Yes, I'm Peter Williams,
Hmm.
current candidate for District 6, Congressional District 6, the
Hmm.
newly minority district that was created. And I figure in 50 plus days, I'll be your new congressman. So I'm
I hear.
excited about what's been happening. I'm feeling good about it, and the people starting to resonate to my message, and they're ready for a real serious candidate that's going to be sincere and honest and open to the issues that we have at hand. And that's who I am, and I'm ready to represent all of Sinlock and the state of Louisiana and our nation.
Cool, cool, cool. Let me. I really want to do a recap on what we ran into last week, Peter. The folk of at the combined neighborhood meeting, they talked about a couple of things, uh, utility bills and violent crime, and that kind of stuff. And I really want to dive into that real quick because some of these things are really impacting us as we speak right now.
Correct.
At the Samtown Woodside neighborhood combined meeting, residents raised concerns about the high utility bills they're facing. How do you? We know that your seat is in Congress, and we know you don't have the control of what's going on over here locally. But in your seat as Congress, what can you do in Congress that could potentially help with residents are facing these issues of, extreme energy costs and things of that nature.
It all goes down to regulations, Mr. Hinton. From Congress side, I'm very aware of the situation in Alexandria. It has been there for a while with the high utility rates. And not too long ago, I looked at the arrangement that they have with CLECO and this third party, four party type energy buy deal. And I think that's where overlapping problems are. If I'm not mistaken, I may have heard some information where it may have been a bill of $850,000 a month that's being paid for utilities by the city of Alexandria. So how can you pay that much money and give cheap or affordable utilities to your consumers? So from the congressional part, I would like to emphasize uh, starting with regulations. That's why you have the SEC. That's why you
Mhm.
have other regulators, the Public Service Commission, to regulate. So unless someone bring this attention to the federal or the state elected officials that they're to regulate,
Mhm.
the citizens will only have a crying voice. So I think now the leadership needs to step up from the mayor to the city council and even some of the police jurymen and say
Mhm.
our constituents in Alexandria and the surrounding areas have this repetitive energy problem and it needs to be looked at because it's going to be ongoing and it's causing a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of harm.
Well, I tell you that 850,000, 800, yeah, $850,000 is actually the note, kind of quote unquote, the note we pay on
Yes,
that.
it is. I, man,
You know,
everybody ought to be getting free utilities under that with that kind of money. I don't.
yeah, yeah.
What's the return on that money? You know what I'm saying?
Um, well, to the citizens, an empty pocketbook, so
Yes,
no
indeed.
return from.
Wow.
They were sold on that idea that they were going to have some cheap utilities, cheap for cheap to purchase and with a huge upcharge to make a profit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. I don't know where it originated, or I don't know the sunset clause on that contract. but
Yeah.
look like all things are reviewable. And
Mm.
I think the new administration or even the people should demand one, an audit, and two, someone to look at that contract and see who's getting paid, where the money's going, and
Mm.
find out exactly what's happening with this money.
Wow, 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 wow. Let me ask you that. I shared. You heard the concerns at the neighborhood group the other day about crime, especially the violent crime, has become a big major issue. And at the end of last week, I mean, we had a weekend that was out of this world. Um, it started off with threats in the schools and to looking for folk who were wanted for second degree murder. Until Friday, we had a murder suicide. Several people were also injured. Later on that night at 11 o'clock, we had a shooting where one person was killed. The next morning, Saturday morning, 8:45, a 12-year-old child was
Uh,
murdered. Um, Again, these tend to be local issues, but how do you see our elected officials, our mayor, our representative, our councilmen, our jurors? How do you see you being in Congress? How can you help uh, address these type of issues?
yes,
It's
sir.
got
Yes,
to
sir.
you representing us, so
Right, right.
and holistically you representing us. So
Yes,
how
sir.
how how can you leverage that position to
Well,
kind of address this?
it appears that the problem has got bigger than the people that's in charge of the solution. How come Homeland Security go in other cities? How come FBI's come in other cities? How come forensic and gang management and ATF and all these other federal agents go into other communities? So I firmly believe, and maybe that needs to be an assessment. Maybe the crimes that are taking place is not all done by local people. You don't know whether it be outside gangs coming in. Uh, Alexandria is prime on I-49. You have transit and you have gang members coming in through Lafayette, Dallas, up I-49 through I-10. So we really don't know the whole picture. So maybe they need some federal and state help. I haven't heard anything about the state troopers coming
Hmm.
in to do some assessments. So if it take a community to raise a child, maybe it take all DOJ and law enforcement agencies to at least help get a master plan, get some type of understanding, because it's going to stymie business, it's going to stymie growth. Right now, Alexandria is in the hub of Louisiana. With the new 6th congressional district, we're going to have all kind of federal monies coming in to open doors for new industry. But until we get the crime situation resolved or even at least identified, it's going to be hard. But my thing from Congress would have to be federal assets and resources to help brainstorm with the local community and the police jury, the district attorneys, and all the stakeholders, and see if we could find some type of solution to at least start addressing the problem.
Okay. And as you heard the residents talk about at the neighborhood meeting, the lack of communication between local officials and the public, especially residents feel that they are not allowed to speak at simple council meetings. How do you, from a congressional standpoint, plan to improve transparency with what's going on in Congress with the people here back in the sixth district?
Well, I'm old school. Whoever pay the bills have the voice. So if you
Mm.
have federal if you have federal monies coming into your city, the people should have a voice. Therefore, you have to hold the police jury accountable. You have to hold the DOJ accountable. The sheriff department is accountable. The city of Alexandria and the administration is accountable. So if federal dollars, which Louisiana, 50% of their budget come from the federal government, so all appropriations other than local taxes and jury taxes. So I think that would be where the pressure has to be. It has
Mm.
to be some new accountability. And what you have, and what frustrates me is that you have the fox watching the hen house all across Louisiana and all across the United States. So you have a lot of folks in the good old boy system. If it's not affecting their neighborhoods, which is a shame to say it, I find in a lot of communities across District 6, a lot of law enforcement don't even live in the city in which they regulate. So
Mm.
that once again, that's the problem. and maybe you don't have the urgency for resolution. And I know if you have to go across a certain part of MacArthur Drive or a certain part of the area, the response time in high-ridden neighborhoods is a lot slower. So I think from the congressional side, money's for Department of Justice, money from Homeland Security, money's for crime prevention, whether it be cameras, whether it be safety vests or any equipment. I think that's the only pressure that we could have, and make sure that the people who you're supposed to be protecting and representing have a voice. And it starts from the bottom and it works from the top down. That's how I would look at it. And I wouldn't be afraid to even come to city council meetings, even have pre-budget meetings to let the city know and the citizens know, well, Alexandria is getting $20 million for recreation and juvenile justice prevention, crime prevention. So, and have quarterly meetings and make sure that the funds are put. So remember I said accountability, accessibility, and truth. And I think that's where it has to start. But you have to have a leader that's willing to do this. Because how many people don't want their books open? Because it's a lot of the same folks, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be probation officers, whether it be bail bondsmen. We in a vicious cycle, and everybody's making money off the judicial system and the penal system. So I think the pressure has to come from controlling the federal dollars with some accountabilities, with some mandatory. Why not have independent community boards? You have board members. You could have board members at large. You could have people coming in with some sensible conversations for meetings. And I think it can work, but you have to have leaders that's willing to talk to the people. Because the money, elected officials work for the people. The people don't work for the elected officials. And I think they get it twisted a lot of times.
Wow, that's a powerful statement there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir. One young lady right here, Ms. Honore, said, "I believe we have reached the limits of our patience, and it's time to take action." Well, how would you react to that?
We have, from the early 50s, 60s, even in the 70s, uh, we have had heroes became martyrs because we was outmanned, outgunned, and outslicked by people in our own communities. And now what we having now, Sister Honoree, we are having black fear with black leaders fearful to speak out. Not that they're going to get harmed, but they don't want to lose their pension, don't want to lose their drop program, don't want to lose their who's who in the community. But it's the middle class and the lower income families that are suffering. It starts with the vote. Our power has always been in unity, whether we at the bottom, at the top, or the middle. It's hard to beat a group of people that's going in the same direction with the same leadership and the same voice. And I wouldn't advocate trying to fight the system, because that's what they want. We can't outshoot them, we can't outrun them, and we can't outgun them. But we definitely could outpray them, we could outfast them, and we could with patience and with the right leadership, I think everyone have to pay attention to what we're doing. So I understand we have a breaking point, but it's always easier to quieten me. You know, people don't like the way I respond because I come open, I come straight at it, because I'm tired. I'm tired of these, I call them layaway politicians that come off the shelf just for election. I'm tired of these pulpit political pimps who get monies from the elected officials to try and steer our folks with a manipulative conversation of who they feel was best. So I think until the people began to say enough is enough at the booth, at the voting poll. This last election, only 200, maybe 300,000 black folks voted in the gubernatorial race, and we have 1.5 million registered black Democrats. A million people stayed home. That's ridiculous. So that's why we in the situation that we in. So I really understand the frustration. I have to keep my emotions off of my shoulders because everything I say is weighed. But if you want a voice to stress what you feel, I'm the voice. But at the same time, I'm one. But with that power of that congressional seat, that pen and that purse, we could definitely make some decisions.
Right.
And that's
Right.
how I would respond to it, Mr. Zach.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, another question that a concern that popped up was poor water quality, and across the country we're facing some poor water quality uh, uh, issues across the country, but particularly here in central Louisiana, in the southeastern area of the community, and in some of the middle, but all over the city, because I've actually, even on the west side of town, folk have complained about the water quality. Um, and I know that you probably are seeing this water quality issue in some of the rural areas too. So how do
Yes.
you plan on addressing that from a congressional standpoint?
The uh, the Infrastructure Reduction Act, they have so much money now for climate, environmental programs. Uh, I was familiar with water quality problems, and a good friend of mine, Mr. Kevin Price, who does a lot of environmental things. We came to the water treatment plant on Willard Glen because it would
Mm-hmm.
have such a foul smell, and some of the aerators wasn't working at certain times of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And he came, and other environmental guys came and did some assessments, and we found that the water quality was horrible at that time. They had leakage, you had rust in the pipes, and that was almost 6 years ago. So we can imagine what's happening now. So to answer your question, uh, the engineers that work for the city of Alexandria, you have to have some independent studies because we know how people doctor books when they don't want things to be revealed. So once again, from the congressional standpoint, my job in District 6 was to take all the hot point issues, all the
Mm-hmm.
situations that's on the table now, and ask who, what, why, and when. Those are the questions. Who can
Mm-hmm.
resolve it? Why
Mm-hmm.
hasn't it been resolved? And the
Mm-hmm.
federal government, all they want to know is where's the problem, how much the problem is going to cost, and when it's going to get fixed, and how many people is impacted. So until
Mm-hmm.
those things are written down and put before someone who can make decisions, because it's millions, USDA sitting right there on Lee Street. They
Mm-hmm.
have money for water quality. They have money for wells. They have money for infrastructure. So therefore, but if once again, if we don't know the right formula or the right people to ask. So to answer your question, that's a federal agency, EPA, DEQ. Send them down. Let the professionals do the independent assessments, just like we did in Flint, Michigan. Same problem, just like we did in Waterproof, Louisiana, and Faraday. I worked on all kind of advocacy programs for those groups. Folks in Faraday at one time had to have the military bring their water. So it's not a unknown fact that most communities, especially communities of color, have lead pipes, have lead in their water, and lead in their aqua filter. And some of those things have not been checked since the early 60s.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
And there's a question going back to this energy thing. I do know we kind of talked about our utility situation, but this particular question says utilities at an all-time high. What's your plan, specifically talking about sustainable energy and things of that nature? What's your thoughts on sustainable energy sources within Louisiana as a whole?
I have companies that I'm talking with now because a lot of inner cities and even rural communities have blighted property problems.
Mhm.
And I'm talking to guys and asking them what it would take to do infill solar grids that we can transform those blighted properties into little small half acre, 1 acre solar grids that could possibly light 2, 3, 4, 5 houses within a city block. Once again, you have renewable energy money, you have clean air money. So you have monies for renewable energy and innovative ideas. But guess what? CLECO gonna fight it, energy gonna fight it. So until you have that alternative, which we talking about now, and it's a simple process. You might have rode around in the city and saw, or in the rural areas and saw a few houses with solar panels on top of their roofs. Okay, and these guys are doing things that we could do our own self, knock a few houses down. How much vacant land they would have within lower third that could
Mm.
do an acre of a solar grid, and
Hmm.
instead of having, and now instead of just giving me some utilities, how about renovating my house? How about weatherizing those old homes? How about fixing the window panes? How about insulation? So those come with a full gambit. And while I'm on that point, USDA on Lee Street, for anyone 65 years and older that own their homes, Mr. Hinton, they have $25,000 grants for renovations, bro, that you don't even pay back. You heard what I just told you?
Yeah, I heard what you just said.
And
That's
it's been in existence.
right, right,
Can you
and
imagine
right.
what they could do? Go ahead.
No, 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 no. That's. We might need to take another deep dive into that
Yes,
conversation
sir.
on
Yes,
another
sir.
and talk about.
$25,000 grants if you own your home and you're 65,000 or over, and how many families that have two and three generations in a home that need bathroom repairs, uh, 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 handicap ramps, ADA accessible,
Mhm.
wide doors, new windows, new roofs, and that money does not have to be paid back. It's a grant, bro.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and they have no telling how much they have in their budget every year. But once again,
Right,
if you
right.
don't ask for it,
You
they
don't.
will not just come and give it to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, there, Mr. Williams. I do have another show going to be coming up here,
Okay.
but
Okay.
here at 8 o'clock. But and for those of you guys listening to me, we're going to be talking to Dwayne Dupar, aka Difference Maker, here at about 8 o'clock, and we're going to be talking about a new single that he's about to drop.
Okay.
It's between he and his son. It's all positive.
Right. Right.
No negative stuff or anything like that. But so if for those guys who are listening to us, we will be on here at 8 as
And I'll
well.
circle back anytime, Mr. Jack, if I have to pull over on the side of the road. I mean, the
Yeah, man.
listening audience is very important. And it's not all about campaigning and politicking, because this is who I am. This is what I do, but a lot of times they just don't want me to get the platform because I tell them what they're not doing.
I hear you. Well,
Yes,
listen.
sir.
We definitely want to say thank you for joining us. But before we get out of here, did you have anything you'd like to say directly to the voters? We are about 50 days out, 50 or so days out. There, we're getting ready to, we're coming up on those last dates to register to vote and all that kind of good stuff. You have anything you'd like to talk about?
I
That you
would just like to tell the voters to take a deep dive and look into all the candidates in the on the ballot for District 6. Uh, I've been working hard. I've been going to all of the lot of communities. I try and make all the meetings, but I know the federal laws. I know what I'm doing, and I'm not afraid to challenge those who have been blocking and being barriers, not only for District 6, but all low-income communities, especially minorities communities across the state. And I would just want them to look at it, because we have 2 months to be complacent and choose the wrong guy, and then we have 2 years to saying shoulda, coulda, woulda, but didn't. But I don't want to have to stand here saying that. And Peter Williams, let me be the voice with accessibility, accountability, and truth. And I'll do my best to either find the answers, get the answers, or be the answers to some of the problems that we're talking about today.
Well,
My number.
Mr.
Go ahead.
The one thing I definitely want to say, I appreciate your, us having the ability to reach out to you and you to speak, especially on these situations when it's newsworthy and that kind of good stuff. Because what we have been observing here in Central Louisiana is candidates that are selecting the platforms that they are actually going to, avoiding the platforms that have the exposure, and it's almost similar to what we are seeing right now in our community. No
Right.
one taking ownership of some of the issues that we're having, and it's almost indicative. If you're not going to say anything while you're running for office, what are you going to do when you get in office? The same thing that,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
again, I want to challenge every single candidate that's out there. You're more than welcome to come over and talk to the folk. But I also want to tell the voters out there, in our observation is that, it's really important to get to know your candidates. And I'm going to take care of you is not is, in my opinion, is not the right thing. You need to know what they're going to do before they get in office. And again, I definitely want to applaud you there, Mr. Williams, for letting us get a glimpse of what you're planning to do for the 6th district, for sure.
Well, and I sure appreciate it. And any given time, what you see is what you get, and the candidates will never be surprised, because if they say this is the position that they want me to take, regardless how many back doors I go through, that's the position I'm going to take.
Well, tell everybody how to get in contact with you, man, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here.
Yes, yeah, well, my cell is 318-359-5333. We do have some Facebook links and things, and but I'll just thank Urban Cash, because they have been doing a great job of helping us get exposed. But I'm accessible, and I've always been accessible. And guess what? I'm 45 minutes from St. That's why I know so much about it. I done spent so much time, and I know the issues. But I've always been the guy that really, I don't need to be seen. I don't need to be heard. I'm a results guy, but it just so happened now that I'm asked to be heard, and I'm asked to be seen. So it's my turn.
Oh, all right. I hear you.
And I thank you so much. And I thank Urban Cass, and I want you to know you have been doing a tremendous job. I'm glad I found you, and you found me, and you called me the first day after I qualified. And that was the best return call I made since I've been in this election. And I thank you for it.
No worries, no worries. And we couldn't do it. We definitely couldn't do it without the folk who support our platform, and that's for sure. And right now, Mr. Williams, you one of them. You one of those folk that help us bring these conversations to the public. So we certainly want to say thank you, and the other folk who are supporting us. That's for sure.
And I appreciate y'all too. And guess what? If you ever want somebody to tell them, you can call me, because I ain't scared.
I hear you.
Well, we're gonna go ahead. Very much.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and end on that note.
Okay, thank y'all. Appreciate it. Bye bye.